Hey guys, we are back with some more information on the court case that dropped yesterday. Today is the 7th, and this dropped on the 6th, about halfway through the day. I read through this today, so we're going to kind of touch base on what it means from a layman reading it, and I feel like what this might mean for the actual outcome here. So let's go ahead and minimize this and let's get to it. So this was released, like I said, on the 6th of August in a supplement for their August 12th actual injunction. So there's a lot to it. Very much so. So there's a lot of sources as well. They've used, a lot of other court cases as precedents to try to, I guess, prove their point here. So, but this is the introduction. We'll go ahead and skip over the introduction because it is going to pretty much go over everything we're going to see anyways in the rest of it. So the argument, equitable Estoppel fails to shield defendants from liability. This is out of my pay grade here, but it pretty much is trying to say that it doesn't apply to where the defendant relies on the plaintiff's purported conduct towards other unrelated, dissimilarly situated third parties. So I can kind of put that sentence together. Basically, they're trying to say that just because P99 and Quorum got away with something, that doesn't give THJ any kind of precedent to be able to say, that this is all or none. So, and they put that right there. So furthermore, this is a no rule in copyright that a copyright holder is bound to pursue either all infringers or none at all. In any event, THJ does not operate like other authorized EverQuest projects. Daybreak entered into written agreements with P99 and Project Quorum setting forth detailed restrictions. And that's like, I don't know what P99's restrictions were. I never really got into that part of it. I know that they gutted Quorum in order to keep them absolutely vanilla as all get out. No custom this, no custom that. But both P99 and Project Quorum operate under the same agreements to contain important restrictions set by Daybreak. They remain personal fan projects emulating only to the early versions of EverQuest and offer no changes to gameplay and provide no sales outlets. Defendants were aware of P99's contractual restrictions and were specifically warned by the developer of P99 that you could get in trouble for THJ's commercial activities. So when it says the developer of P99, I'm extremely curious if they're talking about that Rogian guy or whatever his name is, or if they're bringing secrets into this as because I know the secrets developed a lot of this, and I would be willing to bet all the money in the world that he rolled over the minute he could on the THJ devs whenever he was trying to get Quorum reopened. So, but anyways, THJ changes gameplay and generates revenue at Daybreak's expense. Defendants acknowledge this critical difference with P99, and then it kind of, I guess, redacted. Daybreak did not delay, and laches is inapplicable. Delay argument rests precariously on a single vague email sent to Daybreak's privacy officer's mailbox on December 12th, 2024. Basically, this just says that it went to junk mail, I guess, or whatever. Daybreak established a likelihood of success on the merits. THJ only exists by the defendant's unlawful repurposing and exploiting of Daybreak's protected works. Defendants modify Daybreak's copyright protected code and infringe EverQuest's non-literal elements, characters and Norath, and generate funds from THJ as a result of their infringement. So you see here how it says, it doesn't say they generate personal funds, donation funds, or anything else. It just says they generate funds. I'd like to see where that goes actually. But defendants infringe Daybreak's copyrights. Software contains 3 distinct layers of content: literal elements, individual non-literal elements, and dynamic non-literal elements. All 3 are works of authorship that can merit copyright protection. And then they, of course, put an example here to prove precedence. As detailed below, THJ infringes all 3 layers of EverQuest source code, individual non-literal elements such as iconic EverQuest characters, and dynamic non-literal elements such as the real-time experience of traveling through different worlds, hearing their sounds, viewing their structures, encountering their inhabitants and monsters, and encountering other players. And this is going to be one versus Blizzard. So Daybreak addresses the non-literal elements together below. So the actual literal elements here, they have more different sources here for different precedents. Further, runtime files contain compiled object code and proprietary data authored by Daybreak, and they control how the client operates at runtime. Reply kitchen, I don't know what that declared. THJ modifies and replaces these runtime files to alter the execution behavior of the EverQuest client, enabling unauthorized access and display of Daybreak's copyrighted content. Defendants fail to address their other unlawful acts of modification, including adding and deleting files. Kitchen report. I don't know what kitchen report is, so that's apparently above my pay grade as well. Defendants infringe EverQuest's non-literal elements. They're going just balls to the wall on this one. Individual and dynamic non-literal elements, and then of course they do another source here. Defendants cite no authority for their argument that THJ's use of Daybreak's non-literal elements does not constitute copyright infringement. Not independently developed, it modifies Daybreak's protected files to display proprietary game assets without authorization. Moreover, THJ's modifications to EverQuest and new storylines constitute unauthorized derivative works, and this is citing Bungie versus another small company. Modification of audio-visual display in video game constituted unauthorized derivative work. Defendants cannot rely on fair use as a defense. The fair use doctrine does not apply here. Defendants' purpose in modifying EverQuest code was not to study its functional requirements, but to create a derivative, i.e. not an entirely new work. Saga enters versus Accolade, so that's another source here. Nor was defendants' use consistent with the creative process that is the basic constitutional objective of copyright itself. Defendants' modifications were an excuse to exploit commercially or otherwise misappropriate protected expression. And another one, Atari versus Nintendo. I mean, these are some pretty big sources they're putting out. You know, Bungie, Sega, Atari, Nintendo, Blizzard, Lilith Games. I don't know. Defendants claim that THJ does not attempt to connect to Daybreak servers, the EverQuest client, the program installed on a user's computer, is designed to communicate with Daybreak's authentication servers to verify a user's credentials before gameplay can begin. Without that connection, the game remains locked and unusable. And this is another one of those kitchen things. I have no idea what that is. Maybe someone can tell me in the comments. THJ's installer modifies the EverQuest client to redirect authentication requests to an unauthorized third-party server. This redirection disables Daybreak's access control system and enables users to launch and play EverQuest without any communication with Daybreak's infrastructure. In doing so, THJ circumvents the technological measures that control access to Daybreak's copyrighted game environment, violating DMCA's prohibition against circumvention. So I've never played on an emulator that didn't do this. Ultima Online, Dark Age of Camelot, EverQuest, every single one of them does this. They circumvent the actual security methods to keep you from playing the game without being updated and all that kind of stuff. So I have no idea if they're just all very much doing the same thing or whatever, but defendants do not mention the critical factors under AMF Inc. versus Sleekcraft Boats. Nevertheless, the court need not engage in a prong-by-prong analysis of those factors because defendants admit to directly copying EverQuest. GoTo.com Inc. versus Walt Disney. Defendants do not argue that there are any minor, let alone major differences between THJ and EQ's protected trade dress. Therefore, plaintiff has demonstrated that it is likely to succeed on its trade dress infringement claim. And cites goto.com again. The UCL's coverage is sweeping and enables courts to remedy wrongful business conduct, blah, blah, blah. And more source, more source. And as set forth in Reply Chan Declaration, defendant's conduct significantly threatens or harms competition. Daybreak demonstrated a likelihood of success on its UCL claim because defendants have minimally and in bad faith created, operated, and promoted THJ and established a sophisticated sales and revenue model while falsely calling it a donation system. Defendants' illegal conduct allows and encourages consumers to utilize THJ while diverting them away from EverQuest. Now, that is crazy to me. I mean, people are diverted away from EverQuest because EverQuest's new servers and stuff just suck. But I've said it for a while, the donation system is a little bit, it's a little bit of a gray area in my opinion, only because yes, you can get the items in game, the little echoes, but you can also pay them to get the echoes to buy things that are extremely convenient, not game changing, but extremely convenient, to kind of keep up with the Joneses down the street, which is obviously going to be the bags. Obviously you can use the money to go to the, what is it, the little vendor guy that does like the Las Vegas stuff. And you can get mounts that way and everything else. So it is weird. Like I would say that it went a little past the donation system at that point. I mean, you're not really at that point just saying, hey, I want to support the server only to support the server. You're doing it out of also of a desire to get in-game currency to be able to spend on certain things. So that's just my opinion. Defendants breached the EverQuest EULA. So defendants concede that they breached the EverQuest EULA to the extent defendants claim that they were induced by Daybreak to breach the contract. This simply repackages their meritless equitable estoppel argument. Without preliminary relief, Daybreak will be irreparably harmed. Now, this is what I think is going to catch the ears of a judge that obviously doesn't play EverQuest or any other MMOs. You're sitting behind the desk as like a 50-year-old judge, and you're thinking, man, this company is all they're going to think in their head is this company has owned EverQuest for 25 years, and now they're being irreparably harmed by these evil goblins over at THJ. And that's what they're going to see. So, but anyways, first, as discussed above, the timing of Daybreak's motion does not bar equitable relief, as defendants have not established extraordinary circumstances. Second, the evidence demonstrates that EverQuest's decline corresponds directly with THJ's launch. I don't know about that. I really don't. I know that THJ was going above and beyond not to release certain things on like the release date of their TLPs. Now, I don't know if that's because they were already getting cease and desist letters and they were just like, man, let's not make this worse, or if they were just doing it out of kindness, but I have no idea. For example, defendant Taylor concedes that THJ has accumulated approximately 22,600 unique users from its launch through July 1st, 2025. Taylor also declared further, the cherry-picked excerpts from the EG7 presentations do not support defendants' claims. Defendants incorrectly argue that EG7's quarterly reports were inconsistent and that EverQuest numbers declined in June 2025, not due to direct competition from THJ, but because Daybreak's Fanebreaker server launched in May 2025 and was poorly received. So, in fact, EG7 reported a decline for EverQuest in Q1 of 2025, although at that time Daybreak was not yet aware of the effect that THJ was having on EverQuest's performance. Moreover, there is substantial evidence that Fanebreaker was well received at launch in late May 2025, but by the time THJ had positioned itself as a direct competitor of EverQuest, with the most viewed YouTube video about Fanebreaker entitled EverQuest 2025 Fanebreaker TLP versus Hero's Journey, which server should you play? Third, the evidence shows a myriad of irreparable harm to Daybreak as a result of defendants' bad acts. THJ's infringing activity threatens the very existence of EverQuest and cannot be remedied by monetary damages. This is exactly the kind of irreparable harm that courts issue preliminary injunctions to address. For example, source noted that a major disruption of business can be as harmful as its termination and thereby constitutes irreparable injury. And significant damages may still constitute irreparable injury if the business is threatened. Source. Also granting preliminary injunction where plaintiff is also threatened with extinction as a result of the defendant's unlawful activities. So the balance of equities and public interest from favored Daybreak. Defendants acknowledge that the cost of developing a video game like EverQuest is usually in excess of $60 million, in some cases running in excess of $250 million. Here, the balance of equities favors Daybreak. Daybreak spent millions and 25 years in developing EverQuest, whereas defendants illegally stole EverQuest's assets wholesale. In intellectual property cases, there is a public interest in upholding the protections afforded by copyright law. Disney enters, source. Moreover, any supposed harm to the public interest if THJ were enjoined is not cognizable where THJ is built on blatant infringement and unfair competition. A defendant who knowingly infringes another's copyright cannot complain of the harm that will befall it when properly forced to desist from its infringing activities. The law is clear that officers and directors are personally liable if they are the guiding spirit behind the infringement. Now, this is them coming directly at the owners of THJ. Defendant Takahashi admits that he developed THJ, and Taylor confirms that he partnered with Takahashi to create THJ. For the foregoing reasons, Daybreak respectfully requests that the court enter a preliminary injunction in the form set forth in Daybreak's proposed order. So basically, we were going to find out whether or not we were going to get that injunction on August 12th anyways, but this is pushing that injunction even harder than it was. So we're going to have to see what happens there, and obviously at what point where this goes. But all of this is looking more and more like they're going to be coming after the owners personally. I mean, I honestly would not be surprised here at all if there's a settlement. There's no way that the guys that run THJ are going to want to pump this much money into a defense. There's just no way, especially not if the end result is like, hey, if we lose, we now owe them $3 million or something else. I can't see how they're blaming THJ only though for EverQuest's decline. EverQuest has been declining for years. Now, whether or not they declined more when THJ came out, I wouldn't be surprised. Obviously, THJ took a lot of their player base, or a lot of players that played EverQuest. I don't know if it was even ones that were subscribed to EverQuest at the time for their retail accounts. But I know that there are a lot of people that enjoy EverQuest that are now playing THJ. So it would make sense to me that there was at least some people that were playing on retail that decided, hey, this is a new shiny version of it. Let's go over there. What I don't understand is how they can say that people canceled their accounts for that. I can definitely see people that wanted just to play something new going to THJ but not canceling their accounts over at EverQuest. I mean, why would you? I mean, if you're still playing at this point retail EverQuest, you're probably playing retail EverQuest forever. And the reason I say that is you've pumped so much time into it, and if you like what they have to offer enough to where you're still playing it, then realistically THJ probably doesn't scratch the itch you're looking for. They're entirely different things. THJ offers an extremely dad mode safe version of EverQuest that is able to be pretty much single played all the way to the end game content, whereas EverQuest retail gives you an option to play a game that is more focused on grouping, rating, and unfortunately in a lot of cases boxing your own army, which you literally you can't do on THJ. So I feel like they're completely different games at this point, sharing the same logo, you know, whenever you log in. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't even know if that would be a thing that they could bring up and as a defense, that literally I don't see how they're even in the same genre at this point. EverQuest is completely different. Even their TLPs are completely different than what you're going to get out of THJ. But anyways, guys, I told you guys I'll keep you guys up with this. Wanted to keep you up with the new news brought out on August 6th. Now we wait 6 days and find out what they come out with on August 12th. And just see, it looks like at 10:30 a.m. is when they're going to be doing the final decisions on the actual preliminary injunction. So I'm gonna have to see. It actually mentions one of the YouTube videos down here, which is crazy to me that they would actually bring up an actual, like, a YouTube video as one of their examples here, which is just wild to me. I can't see how one YouTube video having views that people should pick between the two servers or whatever else it is would have anything to do with this case at all. So but I mean, obviously maybe they're just using it as whatever. So I'd have to see if that was one of, I mean, I know that there were a lot of videos, a lot of videos that were coming out over this at the time, but I have no idea. I can't say that that would have been one of mine. There's no way. I don't think that that was one of mine. I don't think so. I guess it would be hard to say. I don't think it was one of mine. I've done like class reviews and things like that, but I don't think I did anything that's like only play over here. But I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I have made videos that were about that, so I guess, I don't know. Which server should you play? Realistically, I think that this is just bringing more people to the fact that maybe if you like Fangbreaker, then you like Fangbreaker. I don't think that would be anything bad. But anyways, before I go off on a rant, I'm over here rambling. I just wanted to let you guys know I will keep bringing you any information that I get, and hopefully we can end this thing on the 12th by them saying, nope, we're not going to shut it down. We've decided that we're good. But at least at this point, we'll know kind of more where Daybreak is standing. And did you guys read the part or hear the part where they said that Fangbreaker was met with like thumbs ups? I don't know. I didn't read anything about that. I was on the forums quite a bit when it came out just to kind of see, and it sure didn't seem like anybody liked that server. That keep hearing the word copium, and I'm pretty sure that that's exactly what that is. THJ took over stuff. No, I'm pretty sure you just brought out a really crappy server that nobody wanted and said that they didn't want it, period. But anyways, guys, see you guys in the next video, and hopefully it's better news on the 12th.